you will be able to catch up with it. You may get a little pop-up on your computers right now just to indicate that we're being recorded. But without further ado, I am very, very excited to welcome Amy Wallace, who is an OT from the state of Georgia. And she has offered to present to us on the topic of yoga. I am going to have her go ahead and introduce herself and share with us a little bit about where she is clinically as an HPCS and an OT and her facility that she works at, and introduce the topic and go from there. And in the meantime, I will apologize ahead of time because I'm going to go ahead and set up the PowerPoint while you're talking, Amy, so that we can go ahead and get started as you introduce yourself.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone to another installation, another installment of our little lunch and learn webinars with AHA. I am Amy Wallace. I'm an OT, CHT, HPCS, and I practice here in North Georgia, about 45 minutes north of Atlanta. I started my program back in 2015. And I went from trying to run a very busy hand therapy clinic and also putting this passion of working with my horses and children as part of it. And it grew so quickly that I was really forced to make a choice, either to run a busy hand clinic or to really pursue this full time. And thankfully I had land and horses already. We did a lot of camping on horseback. So I really felt like it's probably a natural transition to really go full time with this. I still see pediatric hand patients some, but now we just, it's Monday through Friday of working in our arena that's behind us. We see from 75 to 100 kids a week. Offering OT, and we did just offer speech. However, hey, if anybody wants to come to North Georgia as a speech therapist, feel free to let me know. We are definitely looking due to the growth. But welcome everybody. I know it's morning some places and afternoon in others. So we welcome you and just tickled to have, I agree with Joanne, just tickled to have so many folks that are interested in learning something a little different and how to incorporate it into the unique aspects of our program. So here we go to our PowerPoint. So this is seated yoga for being on a dynamic equine surface. We'll also talk about how safely to do it and how to prepare for that aspect, going from off, the horse to on the horse. We'll talk about all those safety ramifications also as well. But this all started back, as you can see, with a student of mine that was also a licensed massage therapist, and she was very involved in dance. And she sort of took a change herself in careers and started really pursuing OT school, and she was fabulous. Jessica had this calm nature that was just exuded. I mean, she was just so calm, and everything that she incorporated just really had a peaceful, calm nature. And she said, I love yoga. Is there a way that we can combine sort of some of these things together? And I said, hey, let's give it a try. So she and I worked together on creating this little program, and she had already started integrating yoga in with some of our children. And as you can see, 2021 pandemic was still going strong. We were all forced to really think outside the box for sure. And so we were doing some virtual sessions with kids, and we certainly could integrate yoga in a very easy way right into their own living rooms. And it transitioned to also, can we sort of start to practice this with some of our kids while they're on the horse? And I said, hey, let's try it. So this is where it all sort of came from, being creative. And we really have found that we are still finding a really nice basis for integrating this in with some of our referrals. So the next slide, let me see if I get our toggle here going. I can get my remote. Let's see. Let me see. Joanne, did you give, let's see if it works now.
I did, I
Okay.
think.
Well, there he is. Great. Oh, there he is. Okay. And there's just, you know, a little bit of background. We've pretty much all heard of yoga. It is, it's history. I mean, how far back it goes is almost astonishing. 2700 BC, so centuries. People really realized the power of movement, sitting still as an aspect of movement, breath, which I think we've all realized, even for ourselves, is a key aspect of how our whole body functions, is our use of breath. No matter what discipline we're in, breath and breathing is very important, but it goes all the way back to India to promote both the material and spiritual well-being of humanity. You know, one of the many great aspects is it can be done, it can be modified to support any age, goal, and ability level. Its inclusive nature and ability to practice almost anywhere, really, and have very little equipment. It's mainly just our bodies. Make it a great fit for classrooms and horse arenas and play spaces, your own living room, your car. I mean, there's aspects to breathing and some that we can even do some of this, you know, in fairly tight spaces. But certainly the outdoors and, you know, our clinics have nice quiet spaces that we can do it. And we even do it in sometimes spaces that aren't so quiet. But we really find that it is a great way for kids to really get focused and centered and be aware of their body. Let's see if we go to our next screen.
Are you able to switch it?
I'm trying to.
I went ahead and did
Apologies
that,
here.
just.
Thank you. And as you can see, specific children, yoga helps kids to develop body awareness, learn how to use their bodies in a healthy way, manage stress through breathing, awareness, meditation, healthy movement, build concentration, increase their confidence and positive. Feel part of a healthy, non-competitive group. You know, that's been a big aspect is, you know, for many kids, it's been competition and how you do it. And really, it's not really about that. It's really about just being and enjoying and feeling. And it's not about that pose is like some other person. You know, this is really about doing it for the enjoyment of the movement. And really, it's huge. Have an alternative to tuning out. You know, constant attachment. I mean, a lot of our kids are so they just don't like have the need for an iPad, phone, and really it's hard to get them away from that and discover some other things that can give them enjoyment and create mindfulness and focus. So
Amy?
that really, yes.
I am so sorry to interrupt. We're getting some messages that you're cutting in and out a little bit. Is there a way to maybe try getting closer to your speaker?
Let me see. And also, and just see if that helps at all. Sorry, I tried to pick a really good place. but maybe I can sit somewhere a little bit different. Hang on 1 second. Let's see if this helps out. Sorry, Wi-Fi on the TV. Let's see if this helps at all. Okay, let's see if this is any better.
It does actually sound a little better.
Okay, so let me know if any way that I can be more, if they can see me and hear me good. Okay, yeah, I can go to the next screen.
Yeah, so everybody please go ahead and type in again if it occurs again, but let's go on.
Okay, and as you can see, this is just a few, and it kind of summarizes the poses that that we have in this presentation. What I did is I have each individual pose laminated and went on a little ring, and that way I can take it to my arena and I can flip through and let the kids be able to see each one. As you can see, it just talks about each aspect, and this is, oops, there we go. And it talks about physical functioning and muscle performance, respiratory health, mental well-being, okay, and breathing, flexibility. The one under the child, the client lying supine, is we talked about sleep. We know a lot of our kids do not sleep and rest well, and as well as calming and regulation. So you can see all the different benefits of each pose, which can be different for each kid, but this is just the overall aspect. Okay, we can look at our next slide. Okay. And so, and after this slide, we'll talk a little bit about the populations I use it with, but some of the activity ideas, I mean, obviously are, we're gonna, the therapist can select 3 or 4 poses for the client or the child to learn and perform each pose separately. We want to practice first, not on the horse, not on a dynamic surface. You can practice in the clinic, on the ground, and you'll see in the videos later on sort of both of those settings. Prior to attempting on an equine surface, you want to learn and perform each one separately. Make sure you feel like, you can sit in front of a big mirror, whatever you feel like the child in terms of feedback, giving them tactile prompts if they need to position themselves a little bit differently. But this is not about perfection. This is really just about, enjoying the movement, and trying to sort of try each one of these in a different stretch position for the different benefits. Pair the poses with indoor or outdoor obstacles and perform poses while traversing obstacles for those using upright sitting, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Poses that utilize prone or supine are best performed without equine in motion for both client and equine comfort and safety. And I think this sort of makes, sense from, where we sort of operate from in the world of hippotherapy. Some of them, the horse is not going to be comfortable, with prone or supine. It's not safe for the client. So they're just, safety and judgment are always first. Some of our horses, as we know, certain ones of them maybe don't really like someone as much on their rump as others in terms of hands or their head, even in a not using dynamic, movement as part of it. So we use safety and judgment first with all of these. And, in terms of clientele and populations, I currently work with kids from the age of 2 to 20. Just like most of you throughout the country, we see kids that are on the spectrum, all sorts of regulatory levels. We see kids with cerebral palsy, with Down syndrome, with ADHD, We get rare genetic anomalies that sort of present in different motor and perceptual ways. And so we take all those into account. Obviously, the child's size obviously to me plays a big role in how we're going to utilize the dynamic surface. And some of these can even be done with the child in tall kneel or half kneel, primarily while the horse is probably static, and a few horses and a few kids, that we know some of these are safe. You sometimes can do a little bit of rhythmic, dynamic movement in a straight line for some of these. So you practice a lot. You really get to know your horses well, and everything is always practiced, first on the ground, and you practice steps of it or certain aspects before you put the dynamic component with the horse. So as we know, and I've really had a lot of kids in the last 2 years, whether it's pandemic or otherwise, we get a lot of referrals for kids with anxiety. Certainly they're not a typical hippotherapy client, but maybe they also have other aspects where their motor skills are challenged. Sometimes they're very, they also have autism, and they have that anxiety as part of it. And can we use the breathing and the yoga as another aspect for calming? Can we use some of the poses in a calming manner for these kids on the spectrum? Can we use their breathing as a kids in terms of have speech communication disorders? We know how breath is key to producing sound, and really get that diaphragm moving through some of these positions. So it's really, you just have to be creative, and like we said, think outside the box. But there's so many aspects to each discipline that these can really pose a benefit. And we can really integrate these in as part of their program. Okay, let's look at some of these positions and see if we can sort of make sense. So I'm not sure if any of you have done yoga or really integrated in. I have done very limited formal yoga. I've done a lot of Pilates and enjoyed it because of the way it taught me to use my breath. So heart and belly and breath. Really, it's, side sitting, really making the kid very aware of their breath. Breathe deeply and slowly. Teaching them that is really, we all need to take really better recognition of our breathing. I don't think any of us breathe to our most beneficial. But it fosters relaxation, leading to, we have better oxygen supply, we have better attention. It really makes body awareness. I know I myself become certainly more in tune to my body if I really take some nice, good breaths. If I'm, really kind of have a lot on my schedule and I'm really feeling that, I've got a lot to do, can I stop and take a few really good breaths really slowly and really deeply? Some parts of yoga, they were taking deep breaths of 15 seconds or longer. I mean, that's a long time. Now, I think they're kind of going more towards, 5 and 5 or 7 and 5 through, inspiration and expiration. But it really does. You can really see the difference for ourselves. This, talks about upgrading and downgrading. You could do forward motion sitting sideways as long as appropriate horse, appropriate size child. You've got your sidewalkers in place. You've practiced a little bit before sitting on a therapy ball. I mean, all those kind of things are key. But it tells you, ways to upgrade and downgrade. So I give you each of those with every slide. That is not exclusive. You always customize these to each and every horse and each and every kid. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Tree. We probably do this a lot for some of our kids, just for symmetry of movement, balance, vestibular, body awareness. But you can also stop and hold the position and kind of do a little bit more of a postural awareness and kind of apply some of these yoga strategies, sitting forward, place palms of hands together and hold. So really getting that up and above, really get that core strength and that diaphragm stretched out. Our speech therapist would actually use this with, at the intonation, like trying to, would really get that and kind of utilize that as a way to, expand on that diaphragmatic support of sound. Upgrading, you can apply that forward motion, increase the challenge to the sitting balance. You could go over ground level obstacles, stepping over rails, sway the body like a tree a little bit if your child is able to do that. It talks about downgrading, change the time. One arm can be on the horse and one can be up high if they, are just not sort of comfortable, riding or sitting without having both of their arms, unsupported. Placing the arms in midline. So it gives you every kind of downgrade that you can do. Okay, next one. Waterfall. This, I find myself sometimes I'll ride on my horse and I'll stretch myself backwards and it really, helps me improve, my thoracic extension. But waterfall is a great one to do. Eye gaze is slightly raised. We get a lot of our kiddos that really either can't or really just don't really care for that superior gaze. They feel like they're going to fall backwards. Can we help incorporate that in a little bit once they're relaxed? Can we get a little bit of superior, is there something they can look at in the sky if you're outside while they're doing this? Benefits, increases upper extremity range of motion and strength. You get that core strength, thoracic extension, diaphragm that gets opened, spatial awareness. You could even have them hold a ball and put the ball up and, over it. And then they can gently come down with the ball and, touch the horse's mane if that's something your horse is okay with. And it really gives, even more, core strength if you incorporate that in. Has a little bit of a Pilates. You can hold a Pilates ring up above. So there's really upgrades and downgrades to doing that. We've done that. We've done the Pilates ring. We've done just a little foam ball. Decrease and downgrade, decrease the time, raise the arms without arching the back, keep arms down for support. Again, you can do this while they go over obstacles or you can do it while they're sitting. I've done it in front of our big mirror so the kids can kind of, as they come down, they can sort of see their symmetry, especially with our kids with, that are really challenged by mild or even moderate tone with CB. Can they keep those arms straight while they're, pushing on the Pilates ring or ball? So there's, again, upgrades, downgrades, customize it however you see fit for your child. Okay, next one. Chair. We probably already incorporate this in. We kind of get them standing in their stirrups to reach up towards an elevated ring. Can we get that and get them to sort of just hold it though? I mean, that's a tough one. Even when I took lessons myself, I can still remember my trainer, my instructor would say, okay, up in your stirrups and hold it out and arms up above. It really does take a lot of core strength. So you can, but you can see it benefits, strengthens hip flexors, calves, and back, increases upper extremity range of motion and strength. Let them hold a ball. Stimulates the heart, diaphragm, and abdominal muscles. And we've had kids say, look how long I stood in my stirrups. Wow, look at me. It really does build some self-confidence. It can also kind of get the wiggles, kind of you fatigue, those hip muscles and leg and quads and hamstrings, and they'll sort of sit for longer to complete a functional learning task. Upgrade it, increase the length of time, give them a challenge. Can you do this? They said 10 to 15. That can be long. You can start with 5. Okay, let's go for 7. Let's go for 10. And they really like, they'll say, challenge accepted, and they'll get it. Or decrease the length of time. Place the hands on the dynamic surface and just get them, to raise their bottom out of the seat. I've had kids, can you stay in your stirrups while we, incorporate some rhythmic dynamic movement? We've done it with kids, going, gently over the, our ground level poles, if they're able to, increase their core strength to be able to do that. So, I mean, again, it's just so many ways you can customize this. Okay, next one. Okay, windmill. While sitting backwards, this one says, you could certainly, it gives you a little more room to sit backwards. But there's, certainly you can make it while they're sitting forward. You can kind of have those arms out, just like we used to do the windmill for those of us that had PE, and they made us do the windmills and touch our toes, and we either hated it or we loved it. Well, you can incorporate this while, they're sitting on their horse as well. Make sure you got to watch the AFOs for those kids that have tone. You don't want them digging in, to that part of the horse. You want to have your sidewalkers in the correct positions, even though, we couldn't really put sidewalkers on these diagrams because you really couldn't see all of the child's landmarks and features. But of course, you're going to have your sidewalkers. We do a lot of the horse that really likes and enjoys doing this and doesn't mind is long lined when we do a lot of these. But the front of that front aspect, the horse is free, and their sidewalkers are in their appropriate places. But we always have a sidewalker on each side. That's just, I like, I feel best when I have that. But you need to have your sidewalkers in place, obviously. But you can see whether or not, how they touch the horse and where they touch the horse. You can change up a little bit. Let's see, upgrades, downgrades. You can look, change, perform pose forward, shift the gaze to the lower hand. So again, you can change it up however necessary, but you can have them. We used to have kids think of an animal. Okay, touch the horse. Think of another one. Back up. Okay, think of another one, or count backwards, count forward. You can incorporate some of those foundation buildings for counting or whatever. Some of those types of things too. Breathing. Don't forget to cue them on taking a deep breath as they come back up and touch down. Sometimes it's fun. I'll have, if they're a really higher level client, I'll have my other sidewalker do it kind of a few steps away as well, so the kid can kind of have a visual. So again, so much customization is why I really like this. Okay, next one. Hero. I did stand-up paddleboard last year and used yoga, and it was so much fun to do hero on my paddleboard. It's hard. But enjoyable. So a lot for some of these kids too. It's kind of really it can be a big balance achievement for these kids to be able to hold, they can do warrior or hero with one arm in front and one arm behind. They will often need some tactile and gestural positioners to get those arms in the correct position. And start them, where they're at, and you kind of can move forward so they've got one behind. You get some trunk rotation a little bit built in, increased abdominal strength, stimulates lungs, builds stamina and concentration, energizes tired limbs. Some of these kids can have lots of energy, but if you get them to hold their arms up and you say count for 10, they'll say, I can't, I'm so tired. Sometimes holding a position is a whole different strength matter. So those can be really great strength builders of just static muscle fibers. So it doesn't have to be always moving, and count and make them hold it. It's great for that. Upgrades, time, go over ground obstacles, downgrades, lift only front hand. So again, your upgrades and downgrades are pretty, like, you can just keep on going. This is just a few. Okay, next one. Bird, pretty similar. Got those arms backwards. I think that, they're really, a lot of times, you want their palms to be facing up towards the sky. They're really opening up those pec muscles. Again, a lot of our kids are very tight. If you can get them a little bit stretched out, it's going to break up some of that tone that a lot of them really are challenged by, because their arms are always in front of them, and getting that back, getting them forward. Increases upper extremity range of motion. Again, energizes tired limbs. Again, downgrades and upgrades are time, incorporating, dynamic movement, a little bit over ground obstacles. I really don't do it while we're on the sensory trail, because there's a lot of up and downs, and we'll do a lot of breathing, but we don't really, I really like that level rhythmic ground. And when you're outside on a sensory trail, if you have the benefit of using that at your practice, you have birds and squirrels and airplanes, and it's sometimes the horse is not as predictable and as smooth in their rhythmic movement as in the arena. So I use our covered arena for almost all of these as just a safety measure. Okay, mouse. This one feels great. Kids sometimes do it with, it's not even part of what we're intending to do, but we have a lot of our kids, especially with sensory and cravings. They love to just, lie down on the horse and, put their hands on the rump. You really got to watch gentle hands. Some of our horses don't enjoy it as much as others or tolerate it. So we have to, others that get a little bit, we know that they really aren't going to tolerate it long. We stop and we say, let's sit up. But this purpose is really for the ones that can, a horse that tolerates it well. And we really want for the horse to be, they can really incorporate it. I was telling Joanne at the very beginning that I loved the article by Susan Hodgkins in the AHA magazine in winter of 21. And she talks about primitive reflexes using some of these positions. This is one of them. Moro. I mean, you can get up, on a 4-point and do ATNR, STNR. I mean, look at some of these you can really use for incorporating, trying to integrate ATNR and STNR. I mean, this fits right in with primitive reflexes that we hear so much about now, as well as, mindfulness with our clients, getting that mindfulness, that mind body full, experience that, even kids can have mindfulness. I think we think that they aren't able to do that. I think we need to give them, let them try to see if they can, hey, listen to birds, take a breath. That's starting to be mindful. We talked about grounding activities. Can you name 2 things that you hear? Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Well, that's somewhat integrating some of this in just a little bit. It may not be positional, but we are getting them to pay attention to every sense. What do you feel underneath you? What do you smell? Can you close your eyes and smell? So we can begin to integrate that in, even with our clients that aren't able to follow, some of these specific instructions. But that's what I love about this. You're doing it sometimes and you don't even know it, but we use it a lot, and but this gives you another avenue to extend upon. Okay. And closing eyes, I mean, all those things. Pretzel, a little bit, kind of some of the same. You can have them do some trunk rotation. Breathing while they're sort of in a trunk rotation. I probably don't incorporate this one as much. I kind of have some of the others that I'll put into play a little bit more, but this is always a good one too. Improves digestion. It can really sort of stimulate some of, a lot of our kids have trouble with bowel and bladder or constipation, and sometimes they'll get on the horse and they're like, potty. We get pelvic floor or, kind of, a little bit of integration. We kind of get some, that interoception kicks in while we're incorporating dynamic movement and hippotherapy. Well, this is kind of part of interoception. What's your body feeling? Ooh, I feel like I have to use the restroom. Well, we can incorporate some of these in addition that can help with interoception. So look at all the things we're touching on: interoception, primitive reflexes, mindfulness, groundedness with sensory. I mean, it's endless. I mean, I really find I use it a lot. Okay, next one. This is the one that you really, I kind of went back and forth. I'm like, do I include this one? Leslie gave me lots of feedback on it, and I struggled with getting in to fix the initial one that I had. It's like, okay, I'm not good. I think this is Adobe, some kind of graphics, and I'm not. This is not my forte. So I did have a parent of one of my little girls help me, and I'm like, please help me with this. I cannot get back in to fix this. So the things we changed were, obviously we wanted a picture, really showing that they need more support under their head. Remove the helmet. The horse does not like, the feel of a helmet, and it's not good for the child's cervical spine, and their neck. So we really do have to either remove it, use a soft helmet, like our Thunder, helmets that we use. I have a lot of soft helmets that they do that I put on my kids that cannot wear because of hydrocephaly or just sensory sensitivities. They will not put, or maybe head control. They need those adaptive helmets that are soft but padded. Or I just remove the helmet altogether, put a towel roll back there that's appropriate. Sometimes I'll drape a quilt over top of the horse's neck where the feet go. There's times I remove a kid's shoes or AFOs. I usually don't have to because we're not doing this for very long, and I don't use it for a huge amount of kids, but it is a possibility. But you really have to follow the safety parameters. I never do it while the horse is moving. I think I don't use this position a lot while horses are moving. It's too much. Even when I put support behind the child's head, I just don't feel entirely comfortable doing dynamic overlay or underlay with this. But it is a great position for getting that body open sleep. We have tried it a few times on a kid that I'm trying to get sensory regulation, but I found that sometimes it stimulates them more. So, but this is an option, but there's a lot of this one you really have to really put a lot of consideration in, and but it's there. You can use it over, in the clinic for some relaxation and breathing stuff too. So it is there, but it is with an air of caution on this one. Okay. These are our videos. I just wanted to include a few short clips. I'll tell you a little bit about before, yep. Let's see if it plays or while we're playing. So this young lady is 18. She has a history of trauma. She is also on the spectrum. She also moved from another state in the last year. She ended up with agoraphobia. She would not leave her bedroom, much less her home. Loved animals. She would literally not come out of her bedroom. It would only open the door to let her dog out. Very difficult in terms of just trying to get her back. And then we had the pandemic, virtual learning, virtual, therapy counseling. She went through months and she would come out to take a shower once a week. Her mom would put food at the door. I mean, it was very concerning, but loved animals. Her mom got referred by the physician or pediatrician, and I said, let's try this. Pretty afraid of being on the horse. We did it maybe twice, and she was so nervous we just couldn't. So we sat in the horse arena. At the very end, obviously, there was a session going on at the very other end, but obviously there was nothing up near us. We sat on mats. We faced the most scenic part, and we had the pictures in front of us. And we did the poses, and we went through the different ones, breathing, sitting. We talked about just the positive benefits of breath. I talked to her about using this while she was in her room at home, but there was no limit to where she could do this. Okay, let's maybe pop to the next video. And this is just, we'll briefly look at the next video. This is just a different position. Oh, this is our other little girl. While you're watching, so we practiced with her in the clinic, obviously. She is 7 or 8 and just had a birthday. Father is the big issue. She really had some concerns. Our mom did some sensory concerns in terms of, had a lot of fears and anxiety. Her brother, we've been seeing for about 3 years, is pretty significantly involved on the spectrum. And I think she experiences some anxieties and some just some issues given having a brother that has some significant needs. Dad's an active military. He is often gone a lot, deployed overseas. She had a lot of fears, and she really didn't want to go to school. She didn't want her mom to leave her side. She would go to dance class because she did not want her mom to be far from her. So we began seeing her in the clinic and the horse, but we started off doing some yoga just in the clinic. Dance, she loves dance, but she would not go to dance because she did not want her mom apart from her. Go into the car. She just wouldn't. If dad was gone, she did not want mom out of her sight. So just a very realistic fear that he would not. She's afraid something happened to mom because dad was gone too. So we started off in the clinic doing a few poses that she chose. Okay, let's look at our next one. And that'll be our last one. And you'll see how we incorporated on the horse. We did have another side walker that was me, and I just stood from behind taking the video. I sort of just did from behind. I didn't do from the side because I didn't want her face to be, I just wanted to respect confidentiality. But you can see, we have one therapist there, the OT, sort of just giving her those tactile prompts. She's counting and holding, talking about breath. So you can see sort of how we incorporate it in while she's on the horse. But that just kind of gave you kind of how to integrate it in. And that was the other pose of, how we try to incorporate some, this is even, you can even incorporate these movements, toe kneeling on the horse. I mean, it's, you have a great horse with a nice, a nice base of support, and you have a higher level client. You can do toe kneel, half kneel, some of these yoga poses. But it really is, that's going to be an advanced, that's definite upgrade, but it's not impossible. So I like the ability to adapt this in so many ways. So I encourage you to think about how to use it with various age kids, teach them about their breath. I think sometimes we think that a kid can't understand about calming themselves through breathing. Even though a kid may be nonverbal, do not discount that they can understand taking a breath. I do it and I let them feel it. And then I have them sort of do it. Have them breathe into my hand. And they can learn these things. And you will see when that child takes a deep breath on the horse, what does the horse do? The horse will also often then relax because they feel that child's muscles also relaxing. So I just really, and it builds connection between the horse and the child. So, don't try some, just use it little by little. Don't be afraid, but do a lot of practicing. Know your horse as well. Make sure you have your equipment nearby if you're going to try anything prone or supine, but that's always, once you have really been using some of this, try it. But that can be a lot. There's a lot of, you really got to make sure, a lot of, really hazards, but there's definite benefits, but you really got to make sure you're doing everything safe. But questions, please. A lot there, a lot of little things. Went a little longer than I thought. I can always talk a lot.
Thank you, Amy. And then you do have this wonderful page of the resources and some additional reading, which for those of you that are interested.
There are so many out there, and there's so many websites for, yoga for kids. I was surprised during the pandemic. I mean, these kids were doing, like, parents were incorporating yoga at home, and I'm like, because there's so many fun YouTube videos with yoga for kids, and they made it so fun. So look at those. I mean, use those in the clinic. If you still have to do some virtual stuff, I hope not, but there's some great stuff for that too. But there are endless amounts of yoga references out there. So very long studied form of movement, and kind of a form of medicine in a way. So, but I appreciate you guys and your listening and your attention. I love all the great attendance. Feel free. I'm sure that my email is out there. Feel free if reach out. You can certainly get it. I would be glad to, answer any questions, or I don't have any problem with sending you a link to having the copies of the pictures. If you want to, I don't have any issue with it. I don't have a big issue. You don't have to pay me for it. This is not that. I want to share this as just a nice way of learning, but feel free. I'll send you the link so you can download it and print and laminate if you want it handy, however you want to do it. But it's been fun sharing this and learning.
That's wonderful. And so thank you all. There's been lots of interest in the chat on getting copies of the PowerPoint or getting the resources. Just a reminder, this will be posted on the AHA site, and any of you who signed up will have access to that. So then you can go through and take screenshots or download it, or I don't think you can actually download it. So take screenshots. Or thank you, Amy, for your kind offer of sending the PowerPoint as well, so that people have the resources.
Anything I can do to help, but this has got endless upgrades, downgrades, and this is just a small portion of sort of how you can use this. But just one more little facet to really reach into some of those teroceptions, primitive reflexes, mindfulness. It's core strength, symmetry of movement, regulation. It touches on everything that we're kind of specialists in. So play with it, practice it, but be sure you sort of practice this for sure before you integrate the dynamic portion in, because it's really key. Before you got to make sure your horses are okay with it before you get kids' feet and hands and heads somewhere.
So quick question, Amy. Michaela wanted to know if you made the yoga cards with the poses on them, or did you purchase them? And if you purchased them, where are they coming? Where did they come from?
I made them. I worked with thankfully my student. Her husband was a graphics designer. It's an Adobe program. I'm far from being able. So I actually had to reach out and say, I need to fix one. And I had to reach out to one of my clients' dads, and I'm like, can you please help me? So I'm sure this can be done. It's just not my strength, but no, so I can actually, make copies. And if people want to, I certainly share them by an email or however, AHA or Joanne, however you recommend. If you want me to share them, or, I can send out another link to my email, or Joanne, you're welcome to share my email. It doesn't, the hand therapy email, I'll be glad to send them out. I'll be glad to share. But no, I made them. We made them from scratch.
Very incorporating. I love it. Great. So yeah, there's lots of requests for copies, and your email, Amy. Can I just go ahead and type it into the chat here?
Please, absolutely. Yes.
Tell me what it is. And
it's N as in Nancy, G as in girl, A as in apple, and the word hand, HAND.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's start again.
Okay. NGA, like north, and then GA like Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So NGA, hand, the word hand, like hand, therapy, THERAPY @gmail.com.
Okay, so everybody should be able to read that. Thank you, Rachel.
Yes, perfect.
Good, good. So if there are no additional questions, lots and lots and lots of compliments to Amy from the group and from me. So truly appreciate the time that you've spent putting this together and sharing it with
everybody.
all of us therapists. The Lunch and Learn seems to have been a really popular way to get some information out there. You all will be getting an evaluation form on Tuesday, I hear, to be able to fill that out. That's necessary for your CEUs, but it's also really helpful for us at AHA to know what you want to hear about, what you thought about this presentation, and where you want to go from here. So please, please give us lots of feedback there. And definitely be in touch with any further questions, any comments that you have. There will be another Lunch and Learn next month, topic to be presented as soon as we finalize everything. And actually lots more coming in the next several months with this format. So thank you from Healing Hearts Equestrian Center.
Bye, everybody.
From Union Springs, New York.
Thank you.
And Amy, I wasn't sure if you were able to see the chat, but lots of really, really nice comments.